Greetings and welcome to Babies with Knives. I've got my ever-present co-host Alice Peng here,
Hi, everyone.
and my name's Brandon Powers. Together, we are going to be doing a character creation for Joe Deaver's classic Choose Your Own Adventure Lone Wolf. So this is going to be a rules on the table segment dealing with the adventure game by Cubicle 7 for the Lone Wolf game.
We'll provide a link.
So I grew up, I know, reading these books, at least the first 12, and that whenever I'd be like sick from school or something, I'd probably be sitting in my room when I felt well enough and going through and doing these choose your own adventures. Alice, I don't know if you ever played these back in the day.
Oh, when I was a kid, I used to play Choose Your Own Adventure books all the time. I can't speak to how many Lone Wolf ones I had specifically, but I had a very large collection of Choose Your Own Adventures, both modern day and fantasy in general. So I probably had at least a couple of them that were the Lone Wolf ones.
Yeah, the Lone Wolf ones were a little different than the classic, white cover choose
Mm-hmm.
your own adventure that we now have board games of,
Yeah.
where they let you have a character in book one and you advanced them throughout the story. You made choices. You got into combats where you would randomize, and there was this wonderful page in the back of the paperback where it was just a random number and you'd run your finger across it. Here they even kind of have that in the box lid, but you're flipping tokens into the box lid, or you can just roll a d10
Yeah,
for it.
I'm pretty sure I did have it, but I would just basically pick a random number in the range instead of using the back of the page most of the time. And I remember reading it with some people, and so we would just take turns picking numbers. So,
That's awesome. It's I have just so many positive memories about this. The box set that came out, which is $30 for a really heavy box set, giving you the rules of the game in both an initiate level and a master level version. The master level just has a lot of options that you can add in, and the initiate level is a fairly basic one. And so I find it so sad that the books aren't currently in print. I know you can get them through digital media, but it's not the same as I think having a book, though probably a lot of kids would kind of wonder why they needed to have a physical book in their hands these days. And the initiate level are just an advancement of the old choose your own adventures where you could sit down with that and do it. It is a group game, and so you would want more than one player with it. But it's kind of just if you were to read the books, then the next step might be the initiate level, and then if you wanted to turn it into that full blown role playing game that a lot of us are looking for, you'd go and tune in with all those master level options. The box set itself is covering specifically the Kai Lords, which is what Lone Wolf is from. There's other supplements that deal with further parts of that universe of Magnamund. And so if you're going to be a Kai Lord, there are four vows that you've taken. One is a vow of poverty, basically, that you've given up something of personal value and that you're not going to be accepting money. Another one is that you're going to fight the darkness where you can. You're going to a third one is doing no harm in the world, and the last one is that you aren't going to overindulge. And so those four vows, they establish at least a baseline understanding of what all Kai Lords are going to be. Alice and I are going to go ahead and generate two different characters here. One of them is going to be through the random system that they've got, and the other one will go ahead and let Alice kind of come up with a concept on her own and just see where we end up at that point. So, Alice, which way do you want to start? Do you want to go ahead and just throw dice at the tower and see what we end up with, or are you more interested in kind of picking and choosing your way through as you learn a bit about this?
I'd rather pick and choose my way through as we go. That's fine.
Oh,
I'll let you walk me through
okay.
it since you have the copy of our book in the other room.
Yeah, I've also got our copies of the PDFs in here. And the box set comes with three books, a pile of tokens, and then some other, little pamphlets, including five pre-generated characters that they give you in both the initiate level and the advanced level rules. One important thing here is that it is a little simpler of an RPG than like what D&D is, but it does have definitely some advanced options. Some of that is one of the big differences between games like Dungeons and Dragons and this is going to be the combat results table. So if you're a character and you're engaged in a combat, you're only going to be able to do damage once a round. That sounds kind of normal for a game, but the reason that comes up is because if somebody attacks you, you might do damage to them based on how their attack has gone, and that's very standard.
Go.
So as a guide on that, you've got this combat results table, which you just take your combat value, the enemy's combat value, you come up with what the game calls a combat ratio by taking yours minus theirs, and then roll a d10. And on these lines that have E, that's how much damage the enemy is going to take. On the lines that have H, that's how much damage the hero is going to take. For how much, like I say, you can only do damage once per round. So if an enemy attacks you, you've already done your damage. You can't attack at that point. And that's an important part of understanding how the game is going to flow. The other really good thing to know is that there are what the game considers auto successes. And what this is that characters that have both a Kai discipline, which is their pseudo-psychic, pseudo-magic type abilities, as well as a applicable skill, they should be succeeding on most things, as long as it's at all reasonable. So if you've got a guard that's specifically on watch for you, and they should be at a heightened level of alert, having camouflage and stealth might not get you past them automatically. That's actually the example in the book. But if you just have a guard that's kind of been there all day, bored, doesn't have a specific reason to be out looking for you right then, you should not even need to roll. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get down to starting up with Alice's character creation.
Sure. Why don't you start walking me through?
There. All right. So, the first thing, we're going to be doing master level characters on this. And so you are going to want to go ahead and get out a D10, Alice.
Sure. And, when in doubt and you don't have character sheet, Notepad always works. That's the old school way that many of us did it when we didn't have character sheets on something. I have a D10.
All right. So the first roll that you're going to make is going to be your combat skill. You're going to roll that and you're going to add 10.
Okay. I rolled a 2, so that means I have a 12.
Okay, so you are not you are not the best in a fight, according to this. So you might want to look at your approach in a different fashion. You're going to go ahead and
combat value.
That's your combat skill, yes.
Okay.
And all the Kai Lords are going to be decent at combat. You are just coming in at the lower end. We will see what that looks like. You're going to do another D10 for your endurance. This time you're going to add 20. And this is kind of like your
7
hit points in the game. So you're going to have 27 endurance. You're actually a fairly tough individual to start with.
Yeah, but I'm still no Grender. I didn't roll a 10. Okay.
And last is going to be willpower. And willpower...
I rolled a 1.
Oh, you've got an 11. Now, Alice, you're like, God, my character sucks. I've already rolled really low on 2 things. And they do have a balancing mechanic in that on how high different things are. And we'll get to that as we go on.
Okay.
But your willpower is at that point going to be an 11 since you rolled a 1.
Yep.
And what willpower does is it feeds onto some of the Kai techniques, but also some of the maneuvers in the game, which are part of the advanced game. So if you want to do anything other than I attack and I do damage, you're going to be using those rules. So that's disarms and things like that.
Wow, my willpower really sucks then, because I never do basic stuff.
So charges are going to be one of them. Deadly dodge, where you let enemies hit other enemies. Disarming people. Doing a heavy strike where you're going to double your damage or possibly triple it depending on the weapon you're using. But then if you don't kill your enemy, they're going to do double damage back to you. Infuriate, which is like a taunt. Parrying. Riposting. Getting an extra attack. Using your shield for all offense or all defense. Throwing sand in people's eyes. Those are the techniques that are in the Lone Wolf Adventure game box set that they've got listed. that you can do, and they all cost a willpower, or at least one willpower.
Okay.
You can only do one technique around.
How do you
Step two,
regenerate it?
the regeneration of willpower, you heal them over time.
Okay.
And I can get that, but it'll take me a little time to speed the specifics on how fast that regenerates.
Of course.
The second thing is you're going to pick 5 Kai disciplines, and you are going to take those as your skills. There are 10 Kai disciplines total, and in the game you start out at rank 5. The game has 10 ranks total. So at rank 5 you get 5, and as you rank up you get each of the other Kai disciplines. So by rank 10 you would have all the Kai disciplines, and that's, as I remember, similar to the way that Lone Wolf went. As you started off with very little, you got more. I don't think you ever got them all, but you also advanced them to get more powerful. And so the ones that are here, Alice, are, and these are, like I said, a pseudo-magical, pseudo-psionic application. Animal kinship, camouflage, healing, hunting, mind over matter, mind blast, mind shield, sixth sense, tracking, and weapon skill.
Okay.
So camouflage is just like it sounds, is being able to go unhidden. You want to pick it if you want to avoid combat, set traps for your foes, or sneak about unseen. Hunting, if you don't want to keep track of meals and you want to be self-sufficient. Sixth sense is by all means your spider sense, if you don't want to be caught off guard. Tracking is if you don't want to get lost. Healing is a regeneration effect, but you can use it onto others with less effect. Well, it's really powerful on you.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I think I'm going to take healing just because I already have endurance, a really high endurance. So therefore, let's just make me a tank of tanks.
There you go.
I am thinking I would like some of the mind stuff that you were listing. I'm taking Sixth Sense, I'm taking healing, and then could you list those mind ones again?
Sure. There's Mind Shield, so if you want to be immune to enemy psychic powers and concentrate even in distracting circumstances. Alice, you have that yourself. Mind Blast is you like the idea of attacking enemies with the power of your mind.
Okay. I think I'm going to try Mind Blast.
Okay. Mind over matter, you want to have potent psychic powers and want to be able to move things with your thoughts alone. You want to be able to do all sorts of sneaky tricks without moving.
Yeah. So I'm going to go with healing.
And this is...
Sorry.
Mind over matter is not going to lift an X-Wing out of a swamp. It's much smaller in where its telekinesis is applying.
Yeah, so I'm going to go with healing, mind blast, mind over matter, mind shield, and sixth sense as my 5 abilities, since my combat level, my straight-up combat skill isn't great.
Yeah. Alright. Then we move on to starting equipment. And you begin play with your green Kai cloak, which is going to identify you as one of the Kai lords. You also get a tunic. There's a backpack, which I believe can hold 8 items, which is very similar to the old Choose Your Own Adventure. The backpack lets you carry items. You get a map of the Last Lands, which they do provide in the box. A belt and a leather pouch for your gold crowns. You did not take weapon skill, and so you do not get a free thing. And then you get to select 5 items from the list provided in the starting equipment section.
Okay.
And so let me jump over to that page. Starting equipment, page 41. In general, they're very good about giving you page numbers. So the items, by all means, the type of weapon you want to use, bows, broadswords, daggers, etc. There's not a big difference on weapons. Some weapons will get traits onto them. Like if you apply certain traits, you could have a bandolier of throwing daggers instead of just one dagger that you could throw. There's chainmail, waistcoat, and different armors, helmets. There's meals so that you can, as you are going in the world, you don't get hungry and start losing endurance because of that. There are healing potions. Quivers for the arrows that you need. So if you want a bow, you want to take 2 items. A rope, a shield, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So if you've got a weapon in mind...
bow, quiver, rope, healing potion, and I have one more item. Meal.
Or a melee weapon?
Yeah, I was gonna skip the melee weapon.
Okay. And there are limits on how much weapons you can carry. You can only carry 2 weapons. You can carry 8 items in your backpack. And there's other basic. And so it's simplifying how much can I carry down to that. So they do have a random. Go ahead.
So this is a relatively simple system again.
It is not that. It's not going to be, like I said, it's not Dungeons and Dragons. It's not going to be at that level of complexity, or perhaps I should say Pathfinder these days. Dungeons and Dragons means 3rd edition to me, but even 5th edition, I think, is going to have a more complicated approach on some things. However, we're getting to one of the things that I really do like about it in a minute. They have a random generation for a Kylord name, and they are like Lone Wolf or, Moonkind, Brave Little, names like this. I guess actually I was combining prefixes. Sorry. So Moon Oak, or True Rain, things like that. And they even have subcharts for battles, colors, and animals that you can roll on. And so you can be Moon Wolf or things like that.
I see. Cool.
As we move on, we get to traits. There are physical traits, which would be like ambidexterity, athletic, brawny. There are mental traits that are going to be like commanding, dedicated, erudite, keen senses. And then there are special traits which aren't going to fit in so easily into a mental or a physical. They can be the background of where did I come from. They can be that you have a destiny. Higher mind is one of them. And these are ways the traits can raise your endurance and your willpower. And they also give you other benefits. And so, if you want, I can read out all the different traits, or you can give me an idea of what you think might be applicable to you.
I'm looking to be decently athletic, not necessarily strong. You don't have to be strong to be athletic. You can be, have a lot of endurance. My endurance is pretty high, so I can be a really good runner. But I'm looking at being decently athletic. I'm looking at being a mentalist of sorts and such like that.
Gotcha. Well, since you've got that really high endurance, but you kind of rolled really horribly on your other two.
Yeah.
Iron Skin, going with the fact that you've got healing, is one that I looked at and I was like, oh my god, I want to make an Iron Skin character. And this is what I'm talking about on the part that I really, after I read it, I wanted to go and make a character, is because you take these traits and you come out with very different characters, even if you've got similar things beforehand. So the benefits of Iron Skin is you get a +1 to your defense. That's your damage reduction. Every time you get hit by, certain things, like fire defense doesn't apply against, suffocation doesn't apply against, but people beating on you, that's going to use your defense. And so it's just knocking 1 damage off. It's the same thing that armor will do. Also, when you heal yourself, you regain 1 additional endurance point each time. This goes back to healing, and how healing is a regeneration effect. So for healing, the benefit, you automatically gain 1 endurance point every 2 hours. So the way that I read that is that because you've healed yourself, you're now gaining 2 endurance every hour.
So that's separate from the healing, Mind Blast, Mind Over Matter, Mind Shield, and Sixth Sense I took earlier.
Yes, these are things that anybody could have. These don't have Kai training behind them.
Okay. So
these
if I double stack healing, that's good. Cool.
Yeah, and that's something that I thought. Also, when somebody else attempts to heal you, they get a +1 to their test to do so. And tests are made on that D10. It's never a percentile. It's just a D10. And so you've now made it easier to heal yourself.
Okay.
And so I looked at that, and you can actually take Iron Skin twice, which doubles the benefit. And if you wanted to make the Grender character, by all means, that is exactly what I thought.
Yep.
That somebody would go with. Athletic is a trait in here. Let's see. You can make tests for non-combat physical actions at a +1 bonus, and you get a permanent +1 to your endurance, is what athletic does, since you mentioned that.
Mm-hmm.
There's also brawny, diehard, hardy, nimble, quick, striking, and tireless. Striking is attractiveness, not like punching people hard. In the mental, there's commanding, dedication, erudite, ferocious, insightful, judicious, keen senses, linguist, sharp wit, and vigilant. And ferocious could be an interesting one, is that it is the barbarian rage type thing, is that you spend an endurance to gain a +2 to your combat skill for 1 round.
Okay.
The special traits that are listed, the background of where did I come from, that you have a great destiny, green-blooded, that you're tied to the natural world, higher mind, when you make mind blast, mind shield, or sixth sense
Higher
test,
mind.
you can
Sounds good.
you may make a retest once per game. If you do not like the result of either, you can take a 6 instead.
Okay.
Which is that gets you past most things that you'd want to roll on is a 6. It's not going to be the super difficult stuff, but
so that's and we get 5 skills for this, right? So
no, you get 2 of those special traits. So it sounds like you're going to have iron skin and higher mind.
Yeah, iron
is that
skin
you're
and
super tough and you have some basis in that the willpower, even though your willpower is not the greatest.
Okay, cool.
For skills, now these are the traits that we just did, those are kind of going to be like a natural ability. It's not something that you necessarily train up. You're naturally brawny. Certainly you're working out, but different people work out to different benefits. Then skills are by all means the old, I'm going to learn how to do something. And you get 2 skills to start with.
Okay.
Acrobatics, crafting, escape, influence, investigate, medicine, might, occult, perception, writing, sage, stealth, survival, tinkering, and vocation.
I'll go with investigation and tinkering.
Okay. And at that point, you start calculating stuff up. We need to, where is my Kai's favor? Page 46. We need to calculate that because this is going to be part of the balancing act. So Kai's favor is kind of like a luck pool. All Kai lords start with 1 point of Kai's favor. If your combat skill is 13 or less, you get an additional, and I think you had a 12?
Yes, I have a 12 combat skill.
And if your willpower is 13 or less, you get another one.
Okay, so I'm now a 13 combat and a 12 will?
No.
Oh, I apologize.
Those don't change. You have 3 Kai's favor.
Okay.
So these are luck points that you can use, and here it is. So there can be other uses for them, but the most basic one is getting a reroll. So if you spend a point in Kai's favor, you now make a reroll, and you get a bonus equal to the number of Kai's favor you had before you spent one. So
okay,
for
so
you
if I
on
roll
that
7,
first one,
I get a 10.
Yes, on the reroll. On that first one,
yeah.
but
and
the
then
second
next one,
you'd
if I
only
roll
get a
7,
9.
I'd get a 9. Yep. Third one, I'd get an 8. Cool.
And so that gives you some, protection from the fact that yes, your willpower and your combat skill. Alice generating characters, dice are generally against her.
Oh, we have some fun stories with that, don't we? 2 hours later, guys, Alice can't roll anymore. Everybody else gets to roll a stat for her. That was a terrible day.
Your generation of your definition of fun and mine might be a little different.
It's a fun story. It was torture at the time. It was sad.
So that is, the basic thing, and you would take and you'd fill out your character sheet, and there's a couple things that you would calculate off based on the rolls that you've gotten. But that's going to be, a playable character as a level 5, and level 5, that rank 5. That's like what Lone Wolf was at the beginning of the books. You're just being released from the monastery. It's probably actually more powerful than he was at the beginning of the books. But that you're being sent on your first mission out of the Kai monastery.
Cool.
Did you want to do a random, which comes out mostly, the same. You still pick skills and traits, but you can randomize up the Kai your Kai powers.
Well, did you want to do the random? Or I guess it's just the 2 of us, so it's probably better that I do it so that we have an interaction. Okay, cool. Go for it. Let's roll.
All right. So you're going to start the exact same way, that you're going to roll 3d10s. First is for combat skill.
2.
Sorry, that was inappropriate. Okay, so you have a 12 combat skill. This sounds somewhat familiar. Let's
I
roll a
rolled
9
a 10
next.
on the endurance.
Oh, you're so special. Um, and what about that willpower?
8.
Okay, well, you're doing a little bit better.
Yes, I
And then
am.
then like I said, there are 10 Kai disciplines, so you can just roll 5d10s and take them in order. And they have example character creations, one of the initiate level and one of the master level, and that's exactly what they're doing. Is just rolling on those on that list to see what they got. Apparently, we're throwing dice.
777. 8 and 9. I'm guessing I should
Okay.
re-roll the 2 sevens.
Well, you have tracking, Sixth Sense, and Mind Shield, and then what they did is they doubled up, and then they said, well, at that point, you can pick for what sounds interesting, what fills that
We'll
out,
just re-roll. 2
and so camouflage, and tracking. You sound very
and
much like a
6.
ranger now. And 6, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Mind blast. So you are very similar. You don't have that healing that your other character did, but I think most of the other stuff is here.
So, similar.
Luckily, you have a lot of willpower this time.
Yes. Yes, I do.
You would once again go through and you'd pick your equipment, what you think that your character should be outfitted with.
Broadsword.
There you go.
I'll fight with my 12. Apparently the universe wants me to, so I'll fight with my 12.
And like I said, we would go through and we'd pick our traits based on what our image is of the character at that point. And then you'd go in and you'd fill out your skills, and the skills and the traits are picked as you have gone through. And as I mentioned before, if you have camouflage and you take stealth, you shouldn't need to roll on that most of the time. You should just say, this is what I am. And so if Alex, for instance, wanted to make a character that stealthed around and ganked people, I don't know, maybe he's done that before, that would probably be something he'd do, and then he'd be like, I can do it. I can sneak into that camp and look around and get a lay of the land. Some of the other ones, you can, I'm certain, come up with, like if you have medicine and healing, you should just be able to heal people. Now, there's going to be a limit on what it is, but when it calls for the test this to succeed, you would just say, I pass that.
Very cool. I just got a headphone warning that my battery's low. I forgot to charge it recently.
Oh, wow.
So.
All right. As you advance in the game, like I say, you start at rank 5. When you advance to the next rank, you get more, another discipline, and one of your disciplines goes up to a level 2. And then you will continue to advance, get an additional discipline, and get a discipline to level 2 as you continue to level up. When you hit rank 10, one of your disciplines will go to rank 3, and that is you mastering that. You additionally pick up skills at level 7. Your skills move from being a +1 bonus to a +2, and you get a new skill at rank 1. At rank 9, the same thing happens. The +2s go to +3s. The +1 goes to a +2, and you get a new skill. And so there is a leveling mechanic that is in here that does give you more to do. There are, like I said, more books out for some of the other character types in the Lone Wolf universe, for magicians and all sorts of different crazy things. I haven't really read those yet in the Cubicle 7 products, but reading this, it really did make me want to. Alice, what do you think of just getting a taste of character creation and being able to look at how things come together?
I think that was interesting. It's pretty simple to jump in on, so we'll see how the system goes. You know
Yeah,
me,
I'm
I like
I'm
things that with a little more depth and crunch. So I think there's actually decent enough depth and crunch to this. We'll see actual play because, you know, it can read differently than the actual play. I've seen some very complicated character sheets that have almost no engine to the actual play. And I've seen some very simple games with simple character sheets that have a lot more depth to the actual play. So
that
we
is very true.
we'll figure it out when we actually play, which will be coming in next week for all of you staying tuned. And thank you all for joining us for this character creation session, Rules on the Table. Bye!
Adios.